Mine froze. Oh, there it is.
That was a good intro.
Yeah, I did.
Hey, everybody.
Good.
Welcome to week 3 of Isaiah. We are 3 weeks in, 7 weeks to go. Last week we talked about this moment where Isaiah went to Ahaz with essentially not really a warning, kind of like, hey, have perspective. And Ahaz couldn't see past his own issues, or I guess all of their issues, just the troubles of the armies and everything that was about to happen. He couldn't see God's perspective. And so that leads us to today. We're doing 10 chapters. We had a new guy to church, and we were talking about, I was telling him we were in Isaiah and stuff, and he's like, how long are you guys going to be in Isaiah? And I was like, 10 weeks. He's like, how are you doing Isaiah in 10 weeks? I said, we are doing really large chunks of Isaiah together. So 13 through 23 is where we'll be talking today. It's all of these warnings, especially warnings about different groups of people. And talking, I think our focus mainly is on pride. And Rachel said she liked the first question, so I'm going to ask her the first question.
I don't want you to ask it to me.
Well, I'm going to read it how it actually says it in here, though.
Yeah.
Is this the first question?
Yeah,
no,
I am.
I'm going to read the second question because it's funny when you read it out loud, because it says, what happiness to you, Ellie, as you receive unnecessary or misplaced warning? Happiness to you.
What happiness? It's not happiness, that's for sure. I don't think, man.
That's how we know Scott's been back writing in the message, is because we have severe misspellings.
He goes with the stream of thought, which is important. Well, and like the one above it, the one that I said I really liked was like, what happens when you're in the line of fire of a warning that was not intended or directed at you? And then what happens internally when you receive unnecessary or misplaced warning? I don't think I like either of them. I don't like being in the line of fire. Like I think we all know this. When any of us are stressed, everything is a little more amped in how we say things, or how we're all like that. Not just us in this room, but all of us in the world. And sometimes I don't handle that well, which isn't like my strength, I don't think.
What's not your strength again?
Oh, okay.
Say it again.
I don't handle it well when we're all stressed, and like the way we talk to each other, or not just us, but like people. Well, you guys have been so busy. I don't think I've even seen you very much this week, because you did Rich did like 3 coffee carts.
We broke through that stress barrier quick and just hit the I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, that's how I felt yesterday. We were at the coffee cart event, and we got the
catering
fairly big
thing.
Catering. And Rich had a moment of like deep breath, and I was already in like, okay, this is another thing. Just add it to the list. My body's on autopilot. I'm supposed to do next.
Yeah, they've definitely taken on the bulk of things this week. I mean, whenever there's a lot of coffee cart, you guys take on the bulk, and so I don't feel as stressed as you. But last week I did. Yeah. Last week I was gonna cry a few times. So
I was never gonna cry this week.
Well, yeah, that's true. We handle stress differently. That's for sure. That is for sure. But yeah, I don't like being in that line of fire. I feel like
do not like it.
No.
Which is funny because this is gonna sound.
No, you're okay.
I don't mean this how it sounds.
I had to say that a couple times too.
You do like being the center of attention. Like you like.
Oh no, I understand what you mean.
Which I don't.
Being part.
The energy being a part, yeah. Like I like to be a part. Like I know, like that's actually one thing.
But as soon as it turns to like critical,
I don't do
then
it. Then I want to hide under the table.
Yeah.
And I like being a part until it turns critical to someone else, and then I leave.
Yeah.
No, and I don't like that either. I don't like either. I want to run away. So like I was thinking about that same thing last week. So like I think that I don't know. This makes it sound nicer than it probably is. But I think I feel strong convictions about certain things. And then I have to speak up. And I can't I know. It's nice. It's so much nicer when you say it to yourself. But but then
sometimes, Rachel, you have strong convictions.
I know. But then I do feel this need to say something, and sometimes that's okay. But then when it starts to shift and things get a little critical, whatever, I do want to then hide under the table.
In that I feel like I have strong convictions to say things. I'm not trying to compare myself to you, but
no, you're all right.
I also have a practice of putting them on the shelf for a little bit.
Yeah. I don't have that practice.
It's the same thing with, I do the same thing when I want to buy something that's expensive.
Yeah.
I put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
I force myself to wait. And then if I still want it, then I say, and so I do the same thing as I go, I feel this strongly. I'm not going to tell anybody for X amount of time. If I still feel that way, then I know
that it was legit.
Hey, well, I still might not be. I still might be stupid, but at least I've given myself time to. It's like tempering eggs when you're banking. Like time tempers things. I feel like.
I agree. I'm not very good at that. I have.
I don't necessarily think everyone has to be or should be. I know myself.
No, I think it's a good practice. I think I'm.
When I feel that way, is when I'm also highly critical or mean.
Yeah.
And
right.
So temperament.
Yeah, I think.
How do I say this without being mean?
That's a good practice.
You have to distinguish highly critical from mean because you live your life highly critical.
I am highly
critical. But you're not always mean.
Yeah. How can I continue to be critical without it being mean?
Yeah.
That's probably what it is.
I like the way you say it.
And I don't think I think yours is not. You're not necessarily always highly critical.
No, not like it's different.
But you're usually not mean.
I try not to be.
Yeah.
But I think that when I'm highly opinionated, the response of people can be mean. Like, I feel like I bring out meanness. I don't know.
Like people respond mean?
Yeah, like I feel like, and I think that's partly because I'm so like energetic in my response that like I don't really know how I'm coming across until all of a sudden people are kind of responding mean, and then I'm like, oh, I have made someone angry unintentionally.
Yeah, I think with like somebody like me who tries to give some time to let things to like process through things, because I'm kind of I like to critically think things through.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think for when there's people like me, and then I can see somebody responding emotionally or how I perceive. I am emotional. I can perceive it to be in my brain. They haven't really thought that through, which to me then it's almost like it's me belittling the person almost, and so I have to like. That's just how it can be perceived sometimes, and so I have to practice like that side of it. Temper also, like temper my response. Yeah. So sometimes I'm like that. Yeah, I think that's how
which is interesting
sometimes from people. Like just thinking about
that's good
your experiences at Presbyter last week. Yeah. There's probably people in the room that share that perspective, and they don't know you. Yeah. And so they can unjustly put you in a box that you're not.
And I think that I think that when I feel something strongly, because I have thought about it a lot, I come across more emotional than I mean to. Like my voice gets a little louder, and like I get like the anxiety starts to like build up in me, and then all of a sudden I'm like, hear me. And then I'm like, oh, I sound like angry or emotional or whatever, and I'm like, actually, I just think like there's like a buildup in me that like comes out in my voice, and I'm like, I didn't mean, like I had to apologize for something I said because it sounded very condescending, but I immediately knew it, and I was like, that I wasn't trying to sound condescending as I was. It's just like, something, I don't know. Greg, I like that you and I are different, but we're both
similar in that ways. We just kind of respond to it different.
Yeah.
And I know my error on the side of it is actually what Isaiah is talking about. It's like sometimes I can find myself being prideful of like, at least I didn't respond like that. I know how to bite my lip, or at least I've thought through what I think about.
At least, I like that word.
At least.
At least I.
Yeah. And so I can find that like in me a little bit.
Yeah. I get that.
And what's funny is growing up, my dad was a Christian, but he was also in the military. So like self-reliance was really valuable to me growing up. Like being proud of who you are was like really, really important. And like my entire life, I've tried to weigh this of like, I am proud of who I am, who my family is. Yeah. I'm proud of Corner. I'm proud of what we've built together. But then you read the Bible, and like the number one thing that God hates is pride. Yeah. And so I'm like, is it because we use the same word for it that's the complexity, or is there good and bad? how do we know when we've moved from good to bad?
Ty's got
Yeah.
new thoughts.
I know. I was setting him up, putting the ball on the tee for him.
Well, I hope that I hit this well. I think there can be a difference between pride and satisfaction, though.
Sure.
Because like,
how do you know when that line of like, I guess I'm satisfied. I think this is important. I value who I am as a person. I think that's important.
mm-hmm.
What's the line where that switches to me being prideful or somebody?
I think
That's probably one of the flags.
I mean,
that has been crossed.
I think like satisfaction. I'm gonna use food as like the example for it. Is like
I like food.
You can make a good meal and be satisfied in the result, and that's something that you experience internally, and it nourishes you, and it nourishes the people around you. And then there could be prideful where you hold something so highly that it overshadows anything else.
Yeah.
You can be like, I'm the best egg maker in this county, and
let me put that into like a metaphor. So like, I bake this thing, which I'm not a baker, but let's say I baked cinnamon rolls. Satisfaction is like, hey, I made this and I think it's great. I think you should try it, and you're inviting people to participate. Pride is when you go, this is actually really bad, and I go, you're an idiot. Is pride the line where you sacrifice relationship for whatever that thing is?
Yeah, I think that's probably what mine is. I think
it's also like a unwillingness to learn. Like I was thinking about when you said, like, I'm the best egg maker in the county. Like in my mind, when you reach that point where you're like, I'm the best egg maker, you can't learn from anybody else, or you don't like if somebody had feedback, you're not open to
but
it.
Somebody
anymore.
is the best,
literally
egg maker
the
in
best.
The world.
Yeah.
Who is
it? But there are people who
I'm pretty
aren't
good,
the best.
but...
Who are experts. I think you can be the expert. You can be the smartest on a topic in the room without being prideful.
And that's where I go to that second point where I think satisfaction nurtures. I don't think that pride nurtures. I think that pride, because you are like you're naturally shut off to things, you're going to dry up. And doesn't mean that you weren't at or are great at whatever it is that you're prideful about, but satisfaction nurtures and gives to more than one people. Like, it's the reason why food is a connector. And continuing in our food example, like if you have satisfaction in your cinnamon rolls and you're sharing them, you can nurture others. If you're prideful in your cinnamon rolls, you're probably not letting other people share cinnamon roll recipes with you, or you're forcing your cinnamon rolls on people, and you're breaking things down. Things are drying up.
It's a misalignment of value. You're putting you're valuing yourself or what you have above others versus a good pride is inviting others to participate.
If you share your cinnamon rolls and you're really satisfied with how they came out, you're like, this is great, I want to share them. And someone was like, oh yeah, it was good. It probably wasn't my thing, but it was like, you know that you love your cinnamon rolls, so you can go, oh, well, like that makes sense, but I was really happy with them. Versus being prideful, you would go, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
Like
I'm the best egg maker in the county.
Cinnamon roll maker. I'm the best egg maker in the county. There's not room for two, huh?
I mean, that's definitely pride if there's not room for two really good egg makers.
It's the classic, this town ain't big enough for the two of us.
I think the most interesting thing about pride to me, Jesus,
it's been a week.
The most interesting thing about pride to me is, so someone that's very prideful can seem overly confident, but the reality is they're probably the most insecure.
Yeah, for sure.
It could seem like pride and insecurity are opposite sides of the spectrum, but they're actually the same side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like if you are very insecure about something, you also are going to probably try to hide it by being overly confident or overly prideful.
Yeah. I think it's definitely this way to protect yourself. Like if I'm insecure and somebody else is pointing out the fact that I've done all these things wrong, like it makes it a lot harder to hear that or willing to hear that. I think that, yeah, I totally agree.
So do you think Isaiah, like Isaiah here lists out all of these different people groups and says why they suck, right? And a lot of it is pride, different versions or things of pride.
Yep.
Do you think Isaiah was because if you try to tell somebody, if somebody's prideful and you tell them, they're not going to hear you.
So when I was studying it, it was actually like most of these things were being taught to or told to the Israelites, and the actual countries weren't hearing these things. And it made me think, okay, like why would only Israel hear it and not the countries? And I think it's this like all of these things are happening. You're afraid, or Judah, you're afraid. You're going through this, like this is going to happen to the people around you. So don't continue to trust in God. Like even with the whole thing with Babylon, it's so crazy because it's like God says, I'm going to use Babylon to basically course correct what's happening in Judah. But then I'm also going to punish Babylon for what they do to Judah, because he's going to use it's just a weird little moment, but it's like they're going to do these bad things and God is going to use it. But at the same time, there's going to be punishment for the terrible things they do. And I don't know. It just made me think, why would these countries not hear this? And if they did hear it, would they care? Would they believe anything Isaiah is saying? Would if your pride is built up so high and someone gives you these warnings, would it actually make a change? The walls are already built up, so...
Yeah, they already have their own.
What is the opposite of... I'm not talking about being satisfied or proud of you or things but what's the opposite of pride?
Humility? Are you asking big questions?
I think I would take it a step farther and say teachability.
Teachability. Yeah, pride. That's really good.
Because when you have pride, you cannot grow.
Yeah. And when you're humble, you are teachable. Like you're willing to learn.
Yeah,
definitely.
Humility
they're hand in hand. But I think for me, because I think sometimes my pride shows up differently. Like Greg, like you said, sometimes there's that. What did you say it was? At least I didn't do this, And I think for me, pride shows up in a very...
That's the Pharisee moment. At least I'm not like that.
Yeah, like that guy. But
I see myself in that story sometimes.
I thought of you. No. But my pride is different. I think sometimes my pride in my mind, I'm like, is that it's almost is it pride or is it brokenness? But I think I struggle with being teachable sometimes in the sense of, I don't even know how to say it, but it's hard for me to be teachable when I feel if somebody Greg, if you came up to me and said, at least I didn't do it this way, that's going to be pretty hard for me to be teachable to hear that. But I think that's still pride in me.
Well, I think anytime we respond defensively or we feel like we are defensive, that's a sign of pride. Anytime you're, especially today, I get historically people needed to protect themselves, but anytime you feel like you need to preserve your own, then for me, at least historically, that's been anytime I'm I need them to know that I didn't mean it that way, or I need them to know that I'm actually not like that. To me, that's a sign that I'm prideful in that moment of how I'm perceived is more important than them or what's being communicated or anything like that.
And I had none of that last week. Just kidding. I had a lot of that. That was a joke. I was joking. I didn't mean that.
Yeah. It comes with worry. If I feel like I'm worried about me or how I'm perceived or what people think of me, that's probably because I have some level of pride that I'm working through.
Yeah, for sure.
And it doesn't necessarily mean it's always negative. That's my problem with the pride thing. Is it's not always negative. I think it's pride is like an emotion. It's information. It's I'm responding to this in this way. Why? And it invites us to...
Yeah, I totally... Yeah.
I think it's when we respond out of the pride that it actually becomes...
But I think that, is a sign. If you feel prideful and you're... that's a sign of humility to be able to dive in and to figure out why that's happening. I think being willing to ask yourself that question and being teachable, like he said, and all of that, that is how you get to. I apologize. I feel like that's how you get there. That's how you get to humility, is being willing to dissect and ask yourself questions and
Yeah.
be teachable, because otherwise it's just gonna build more walls.
The internet says,
What does the
good,
interweb say?
good pride versus bad pride. Good pride is based on effort and achievement, can be a feeling proud of a specific accomplishment, has humility, recognizing contributions of others and not saying oneself is superior. Motivating factor, like it can motivate you to encourage more growth in you, and it's quiet confidence, loud, braggy, like conversation. And then bad pride, it's the arrogance and boastfulness, it's comparison to others, it's lack of accountability and defensiveness. So everything that we kind of broke down.
Yeah.
But I just think that that's so good to know is everything that we just talked about, the idea of being satisfied and proud of something brings humility, brings other people, brings all that. Whereas bad pride is like the
I think it's significant.
Do you know who I am?
It's significant that this moment comes after an invitation to have perspective, because I feel like Isaiah goes to Ahaz. He says, "Have perspective." Ahaz is unable to, and then he gives these warnings about all these groups of people and talks about pride. And I think like that's the same for us. It's like I think if you have good perspective of value of self, value of others, value of relationship with God, that good pride is what's available.
Yeah.
Like I'm so proud of us as Corner Church, 5 location. Like it's really cool. It's something I'm very proud of. Versus like if you have bad perspective of self or value of self or others or relationship with God, it comes out in that arrogant, defensive type of pride, I think.
Yeah, which is, like you said, rooted in insecurity. So it's like this it's so twisted, because there's the being proud of yourself. There is some humility in there, because it's like you honored other people and honored what your family did and like what you did as building Corner and how we did it together and all of that. Like it's so different than like pride is rooted in insecurity.
Yeah, and that's why I struggle that we use that word both ways. I wish. Is that an English problem?
An English issue?
I think
Probably.
I went through and, Scott, I know you might listen to this. I went through and changed all the moments that in the message where he said proud to being prideful.
Yeah.
Because I just think that the more we can distinguish the satisfaction and the goodness of being like, this is something we're a part of, this is so good, from, who do you know who I am kind of thing is important.
Yeah.
But yeah, it probably is now I'm going to deep dive on those words today because I want to know.
Business.
Hubris.
Yes,
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, even just saying proud and prideful can't feel much different to me.
Yeah,
I don't want to be prideful.
I am
feel like
proud.
I want
to be proud of people and proud of accomplishments and everything.
Yeah.
I don't want to be prideful. So maybe that's the good pride, bad pride.
I love it.
That's all I got.
I think it was good.
You wrap us up, or is that your wrap up, Rich?
No, I think I think out of this, just the big point is care for others, look outwardly, be collectively proud of what you get to partner with God in and what He's up to. I think that's really cool. And for us to just sit there and go, like, nope, like I'm not gonna feel satisfaction or be. I think that is on the other side of all of this. I think that God has put good works out for us to do, and when those come to fruition, it's good for us to celebrate them. And part of celebrating is to be proud collectively and to be able to get that. But stay away from pridefulness, I guess is the big one. Don't turn it inwards. Don't say I'm the best, therefore. Just, I mean, you can be. I make good stuff, but I'm going to be teachable. I'm going to be humble. That's all. I was really tempted to make it a Western thing, but I'm not going to. That's the end.
See you guys next week.
Bye.